Hi, I'm Jeff Farris, President and CEO of CloudRadial. I'm here with Ricky Cecchini, our VP of Product. Hello, Ricky.
Hey,
And today we're going to talk about killing the QBR. And we're going to focus on a topic that is near and dear to our heart. It's one of the core reasons for our structure of CloudRadial. To basically transform the way MSPs work with their clients. We'll give it a few minutes here, or just a few seconds here for everybody to join in. And hopefully participants are joining because I'm not seeing them on my screen. Hopefully you're seeing them on your screen, Ricky. So
see, we're getting up. I saw 70, now we're 80. That's pretty good.
okay, good. All right, good. All right. So so really want to focus today again on the QBR and the role of the QBR for the MSPs, because as the title says, we believe that there's a huge opportunity that's being lost by the mismanagement and the misdirection of QBRs is the way that they're typically practiced today or preached today. So for those of you, I think we've got a lot of CloudRadial clients on the webinar today, and then we've also got some people that may not be as familiar with CloudRadial. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes addressing who CloudRadial is and what we do. CloudRadial is a platform that is the one and only client services automation platform. And by that, I mean that basically we are a platform that MSPs use to put all client touch points together in a single pane of glass with a white labeled approach. We're going to bring together really the core functionality that you use to deal with clients on a day-to-day basis, the way you engage with clients, and then basically being able to use your existing stack and leverage that data in a way that totally automates numerous processes, including the QBRs we'll talk about today. For those who've never seen CloudRadial, again, what this is going to look like, what this screen here is kind of the way CloudRadial looks to your clients. It is, again, your single pane of glass, white labeled around your efforts. And what we're going to talk about today is a theme that we've been working on for quite a while. And we're going to deal with one specific thing, but that's basically capturing client budget. MSPs have basically built very successful managed recurring revenue based on managing technology. But there's three buckets of budget that MSPs can get revenue from. There are three particular problem areas for clients. And we want to focus, and with CloudRadial, we want to help you as an MSP tap into all three of those buckets of budget, if I can say that quickly. And so most everybody is familiar with the managed technology budget, and those things are, again, managing the endpoint servers, the cloud infrastructure, Office 365 logins. And typically the terminology that's related around managing technology is there on the screen. If you're talking to your clients about those pieces of your infrastructure, you're in the managed technology budget. And the managed technology budget is a cost for clients. They don't see it necessarily as a way to make more money. And so basically, sometimes if you're just in the managed technology budget, your clients will view you as a cost and maybe be shopping around for lower cost alternatives. So if you're only in the managed technology budget, there's a little risk that goes with that. If you're in the managed people, managed productivity bucket, these are the types of terms that would be used in those discussions. And in this case, as we'll talk about a little bit later, productivity, people cost are one of the highest expense that MSPs have. So anything that you can do to drive advantages in those areas are an opportunity to actually generate a really solid ROI for the clients that you serve. And these types of terminologies would be used anytime you're talking in these terms. Clients are starting to be receptive and maybe seeing you as a way to make the most of what they have. And lastly, the managed outcomes budget, which is where an MSP or really any provider can help a company grow and expand. And for companies, again, they will try to minimize their costs. They will try to maximize the utilization of existing resources. But for many clients, growth is a primary driver. And when they're talking about growth, they're talking about investment, and they're really focused on growing their top line. And any MSP that can help them achieve those goals is certainly going to get really solid attention from the executive team and those clients. So today, the QBR relates to this because it is the chief way that you're going to be able to tap into this larger bucket of budget. And if you want to start talking about managed productivity or managing outcomes for your clients, you have to be able to use the QBR in an effective way to use that time intelligently so that you can take your clients to the next level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Let's say I think I'll chime in on this guy because if, the majority of people, I think on this webinar, at least currently, are our customers, and I've spoken to many of you personally, and I think that we've done a pretty good job, I think, systematically internally of trying to understand, especially when you build a piece of software like CloudRadial and you want to help smooth out a QBR and make it really valuable, what's happening today, what should be happening, what could be happening. And the first step to understanding that is what is the QBR topics of today, or in this case, yesterday. A lot of the stuff you're seeing on screen is stuff that I personally have seen. I'm sure you guys do it as well in the QBR as a line item, or maybe as the entire discussion, right? So without going through all of them one by one, ticket history is a super common one because we've seen, a lot of people make the status of their tickets, the review of these things a core function. Same thing with even more I'm struggling to think of the correct terminology, but very line item stuff like hard drive disposal, right down to the individual talking points that are so minuscule that don't really have a big impact. They may be things to do. None of these things are irrelevant or wrong. I want to point that out, but they're not really going to be things that move you towards that last bucket that Jeff's talking about, which is the most valuable use of your QBR. So as you look down this list, you're going to think and see hey, probably you've talked about this. And again, that's okay. We're just trying to make sure that as we think about the future, how do these things play into the bigger strategy, or even better, right? Instead of just thinking about how to maybe collapse these or make them, easily digestible, can we get rid of them completely, right? And if we do get rid of them, if we kill the QBR as it is today, which is really what we're going to talk about today, what replaces it? Is there a replacement? Do you just skip that completely? And I want to talk a little bit about how CloudRadial fits into that, right? Again, this conversation isn't really just about CloudRadial. This is about a general mindset shift, but obviously it'd be remiss. You shoot up to CloudRadial, you got to expect it. We're here to automate some of these things, right? So a lot of the stuff that we saw on screen before, so whether it's warranties or, hard drive status or ticket status, are things that really you can automate, not necessarily taking all that stuff and again, hiding it away because it does have its place, but making these things that are otherwise mundane a day-to-day task, something you can do in autopilot, right? Don't call me to go check my ticket history. I don't want to print out the tickets or pull up a dashboard. I can see that whenever. I don't want to waste my precious time that I have with you reviewing things that are otherwise available. Same thing, if you can take that stuff and make it a given, well, you can shift your conversation up to those higher buckets, right? So again, you're on collaboration and productivity and whatnot. And what Jeff is sharing on screen right now is one of literally hundreds of screens you could have inside of CloudRadial that would replace a lot of those conversations in the QBR. So in this specific instance, we're looking at one example of, hey, I want to see the performance of the endpoints within an organization. I want to see who's underperforming, who's overperforming. This might have been previously a 20-minute conversation or a 10-minute conversation in a very precious hour, or if that, right, in a QBR, why bother? If you can have these conversations here, then we're kind of saying can we shift this to be more of a, yeah, that's on the back burner. We're going to take care of that dynamically over time. And we'll focus on the bigger picture stuff up front. And that's what CloudRadial really, the crux of how that's going to initially help you get that stuff out of the way for the QBR. And I think the next part to it as well is the concept. Again, kill a QBR is a very strong title. I think we did it on purpose, and we really believe it, because I think the QBR as we know it is fundamentally incorrect. And I think that we've seen it where honestly, it's almost annoying. And I hope you guys feel the same way. How many people come in and they give you different takes, do this report instead. have it this way. No, do this format. No, bring these 3 reports and then have this dashboard. And it's like, really, what it really is. And even internally, I put this up there because we've heard it many times where people come and say, well, I want to rebuild this report, or, well, I want to automate this. It's like, think about it and back it up as a little bit more, right? Like I said, QBR is a really, really high value hour. The more time you spend talking about these things that are important but not super relevant, the less times you're going to have that QBR in your future. I promise you, if you even have one now, right? So the other trick here is we're not going to waste our time talking during a QBR, which is bizarre, right? It's kind of the opposite of what we do now. A lot of them are very defensive. And let's talk a little bit more about what we should do instead of talking.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is fascinating is defining what the QBR is, who it's targeted for, and what the purpose of it is. The QBR, there's so much information, again, with email, with Teams, with chat, with so many different technologies out there. The face-to-face time, as Ricky said, is the most valuable hour that you'll have with a client. And so if you think about that FaceTime and what you're going to accomplish with that FaceTime, what the first step is to step back and think about whose business review it is. And one of the things that, again, is we've talked to now thousands of MSPs, and we've listened to what they do, and we've listened to how they approach the QBRs. What becomes clear is the QBR has kind of morphed from something that was a way to basically address maybe a lack of day-to-day communication, because now things are cloud-based or now things are remote-based, and there's not as much time on site. But now the business review has basically morphed into a conversation where the MSP presents, and we've talked to so many MSPs that have done elaborate PowerPoints, that have done elaborate reports, that print a lot of things, and basically to summarize all the activities that they've done over the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the frequency of that business review is. But the business review, again, isn't about necessarily your business review, it's their business review, right? And at least it's the way it should be done. And so this isn't a review of the MSP's progress over the last few months. It's really a review of their business and what's changed inside that client business that's changing. And based on the conversations and the tone of that, if you get into the business review, you're going to get different takes on the business and the future of that business depending on who you talk to in that organization. So if you're talking technical, operational, transactional, that may be stuff that may be appropriate for the director of IT or maybe the office manager. But if you really want to talk to the president, CEO, owner of your clients, you've got to be able to think about the things that keep them up at night. And so if you're addressing or conversing about the things that keep that person up at night, you're going to find yourselves talking progressively higher and higher up in that organization. If you started with the CEO in your first QBRs and find yourself pushed down to the office manager, it means that you were no longer addressing the issues that kept that CEO up at night. If you were focused on things that are extremely technical and you got relegated even further down, it may be that you're not now in touch with where the company's headed, where the client's headed, and that's where you're missing out on helping that client managing productivity and managing those outcomes. So let's think about, from a client perspective, again, from a business owner's perspective, what are the correct topics for the QBR? And one of the things is we talk about the agenda, because these aren't the things that you talk to, these are the things that you listen to. Is basically what you're in the QBR to do is to help understand, how does my client make more money? What can I do to help them make more money as an MSP? How does my client get more from what they have? Do I understand everything that they have? Do I need to ask questions about what they have, or what they just acquired, or where they're headed? How does my client control their risk? What are their risks? I mean, we hear a lot about security and malware, ransomware. Those may not be the risks that your clients stay up at night worrying about. They may have other issues related. I mean, if you were in the banking sector right now, there's a lot of issues related to banking that are in the news today that are probably keeping financial clients up at night, whether their bank is solvent, whether it will be solvent, whether they should move their monies, not move their monies, and again, as you get down to the things that really keep those business owners up at night, what you're trying to do as an MSP is understand what they see as their risks so you can understand how to help them better. And then lastly, again, saving that client more money. Again, if you understand what they're focused on and you understand what they're doing, you can understand how to address all four of those things. But you don't get to those things without asking. And one of the things, and as Ricky pointed out earlier, you can't get to the meat of a QBR if you start off talking. Again, if you start that QBR with a status report, with a progress report, or your own agenda, you're going to lose the time to understand how to really address the things that affect those clients. And again, if you want to focus, if you want to focus on the things that the client cares about, you're going to frame it in some of these in with this approach. Now, one of the things that we've got inside of CloudRadial, you've probably seen this diagram in prior webinars and inside the product. It's buried in the categorization and the product categorization side. It's the structure we use for the planner board. And this is basically a hierarchy of IT conversations in the sense that if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need, where the lower things dominate until they're satisfied and you can't really move up the hierarchy until lower levels have been addressed. Think about this as Maslow's hierarchy of need for IT conversations. If, for example, a user cannot log in to Office 365 or their PC won't boot up, you're going to be right down there at the efficiency layer, and you won't be able to talk about anything else until that efficiency layer is resolved. If there's a security breach, if there's a backup issue, again, all of these things will dominate and keep you from talking about those previous QBR topics if these aren't all addressed well. But one of the things that we've seen in talking to, again, thousands of MSPs is how well MSPs run the basic day-to-day of managing their clients, managing the client's technology, right? Because again, that first bucket of budget is the way that most MSPs become familiar with their clients. It's the first need that they address. And as they do that, they're starting to build up that credibility and build up and start addressing that hierarchy. So again, when they walk into that QBR meeting, hopefully these lower levels are sufficiently addressed that they're not the issues to be addressed in the QBR. And so again, as you can work up the hierarchy of need, as you've addressed these things and automated these things and pushed these typical information into the CloudRadial portal, now what that does is really free up a solid hour of conversation with those clients that can be super productive. Let me go. Okay.
And I wanted to talk about, we had this conversation prior to this webinar of a little bit more tangible of an example, because I think that something that everybody, especially those that are responsible for perhaps running their MSPs that are not just donning the technical hat, but also running the business owner hat, right, are going to be thinking about isn't just where's my technology taking me, but even just like structurally. So we took the average salary in the US, broke it down on a per month. So this is about, mid 60s thousands, right? So that's $5,500 a month that as a business owner, you're paying for an employee. Cool. Now that obviously encompasses a ton of time into their training, into their IP, their growth. There's a bunch of stuff that's in that salary that you're paying a person for. And then the last two line items on here are a really, really very simplified version of their technology breakdown. So we estimated, again, maybe like a $1,200 laptop, something like that they're leasing out, right? So ostensibly, let's say $50 a month, not a huge cost. And let's say as the MSP, you're also rendering a bunch of services inside of a single seat cost of $200 a month. That might include security, backup, all this other stuff. So what I want to stress here is thinking about, again, from a finance and business perspective, that maybe as a business owner, I'm thinking, okay, I've got this employee that costs me $5,500 a month and they're producing, right? So the big takeaway isn't that they're costing me, but they're also being productive, and hopefully I'm making more than their salary costs on their work. And I've got technology-wise, let's say a $250 cost, right? So when we talk about this in productivity terms, right, which is what we're looking at now, if we can take just 10% of their increased productivity, and this is the same reason that we stress it ourselves in the product, that is nuts, right? That's 100+% ROI on that employee for them. So all of a sudden, again, tangibly in a QBR conversation, having a conversation about replacing a hard drive, for example, right? And this is very, very minute, but replacing a hard drive is equivalent to walking into a bank and holding up a quarter and going, I want to invest. It's like, yeah, it's money, but it's not real. It's not really going to affect stuff, right? It is, and it's legitimate. What's really impressive is if you go, I have a strategy to take that quarter and invest it and compound it, and hey, now I have the $100 out of that. So, okay, how do we take something that is typically not very tangible and make it tangible? The discussion that Jeff was having before. And I think we also have another example of, again, keeping in theme with the bank.
Before we go on, I want to talk about this just a second more, because there's a lot of conversation going on related to seat price, right? And what the right seat price is for an MSP to charge. And if the seat price is based solely on managing technology, remember that conversation is going to be very cost centric. And so even if your security costs are going up, if you're there to provide efficiency, security, and you basically make that your core pitch is that basically we're here to keep you secure and protect you against ransomware, you're going to be a cost. And that cost is always going to be compared against other MSP costs or other costs they can have. And so from a business owner standpoint, that's not a bucket you want to be in, right? Not when it comes to just managing security. And if you look at, though, the core conversation that you can have with a client, and again, security is certainly one thing and it might get you in the door, but if you want to be sticky and you want to basically make the seat price irrelevant as to what you're to the conversation, focus it on the ROI. Again, the cost of the PC to a client is, again, if you on a typical office lease, it's going to be $50, $60 a month. Even at the highest end PC and fully equipped, maybe it's $100 a month, right? Your bill as an MSP is somewhere between 2 and 5 times what that endpoint cost, right? And we just want to make sure that really sinks in, because again, the cost of the equipment is not the primary cost to that business owner. And they didn't buy that equipment to basically so that everybody could have a laptop. They bought that equipment so that an employee could be productive. And being productive means a lot of different things. It means that they can log in without problems. It means that they can access their systems without problems. It means that it boots up every day, all the time, right?
I think is another big thing.
Reliably, right? And again, when you go to, like, if you're on the Office 365 suite, there's so many things in Office 365 like Teams and Power BI and so many other tools that are in that Office suite. If they can use those tools effectively and take full advantage of the shared collaboration that's inside of all of the tools now, again, they're rolling out Chat GPT type functionality inside all the Office products. As an MSP, if you can help them take advantage of everything that Office has to offer, and you can make sure that things are working reliably, consistently, day in and day out, that's 100% return on their investment with you. And it doesn't matter, again, if you look at the average salary being $5,500, and yeah, maybe not everybody's making $60,000 a year, but that's not the only cost, right? You've got taxes, insurance, healthcare, all on top of all of this. So by the time you fully load it, those employees, even lower level employees, are super expensive to clients. And so if you can boost them by 10% by making sure things work and make sure their time is totally focused on their job, it's a huge return. And whether you're charging $150, $175, $200, $250, $300 a seat, you still can show a compelling case where with your services, you're delivering 100% ROI on their investment. They spend $300 with you, they're going to get 600 back out of their employee costs. So again, as you're going through these calculations, this is why these buckets of budget are so important. Remember, managed technology, if you're just doing that, is going to be a cost. If you're managing productivity, that's a place to really demonstrate a solid ROI advantage.
Sorry, just wrapping up a good question in the Q&A there. But yes, and I wanted to keep that bank analogy. I like the bank analogy because I've actually done a fair amount of comparison between how banks operate, believe it or not, and just business in general, but also MSPs. And, I won't go too far into it, but there's a lot of similarities between the modernization of something like banking and MSPs. Now, one of the things that I think is really fascinating, and this is where a parallel can be drawn, is also how banks typically interact with their customers, right? And if you think about it, like the digitalization of banking has been fascinating, and it really echoes a lot of what MSPs do. So specifically, if you think about this, again, if you've talked to me recently, I'm really on this bank thing. Applications that banks have, like very seldom, if ever, right? Does anyone reach out to you from your bank proactively asking you to check your statement or to do this or do that? They typically drive you in a digital first experience. And I think that if we're talking about the hierarchy that Jeff was saying, right? And obviously banks don't really care about, you putting in an extra dollar in your savings account. They want you to go get a loan with them. They want you to go get, do some investments through them. So when we talk about even how they set things up, right? This first question is like, well, first of all, right, when you go to a bank, do they go, hey, do you have a way, you have a place to put money? Do you have a way to check your statements? No. Well, then I can't get to those high level things until I do it, right? So this is a tangible example. That would be their efficiency layer. Their efficiency layer is like, okay, let's open yourself up a checking account. Let's get you set up with a direct deposit, and there you go. Every single step up, right? You'll forgive me for not giving you 55 examples to get all the way up, skipping all the way to the end, right? If you can start those things, and MSPs obviously have the same thing, advancing your way up, right? Only when you have that solid base can you work your way up to like, okay, so your statements are set, we have your fraud alerts set, we have all these different, right? Efficiency, security, productivity, collaboration, right? Maybe you have a joint bank account with your significant other, and we've set all that up. Now that everything's done, we can talk about investments. So not only is that a far more interesting conversation for you as the client of the bank, it's far more interesting for them. That parallel drawn to MSPs is, right, I can't really justify calling you once every 3, 6, 12 months going, hey, let's check tickets. Because in the end, I go, yeah, I mean, I can check them whenever, right? That's the idea. Hopefully through something like CloudRadial, you can. But what that allows me to do tangibly is you go, because I don't have to have these conversations, let's have that conversation where you just basically vent to me, right? You dump on me everything that you want to do. And that allows you to have those conversations going, hey, maybe we need to migrate you, right? A migration project instead of a hard drive replacement. Or maybe we need to talk about training your organization on this new tool for productivity. That's far better than, hey, we should produce a YouTube video, right? So it's like this parallels can only be drawn after you build that base foundation. And again, these are very tangible things that we can get through. And
yeah, one of the things, yeah. So taking this bank analogy, again, because things are digital first, and again, the bank is going to try to route you to a digital experience whenever possible. You have a question about your account, they route you online, right? Again, you have any basic query that goes on, they try to route you to some automated online experience first. And then only when there's potential new business to be had do they typically involve a person, right? So if you need a car loan, a home loan, now you might actually talk to a person to kind of guide you through it, even though progressively less so. Now, as we kind of, just to summarize kind of where we've come from, again, all of the things that are transactional in nature, all the things that have made up what we have termed yesterday's QBR topics still have to be discussed. There's still a hierarchy, right? And again, if you don't address the hierarchy, if you're doing things, if you have problems in those any areas, you'll still have to address them. But with something like CloudRadial, you're going to basically be able to push all of that information into a digital first experience. So again, if they have a question about a ticket, if they have a question about a quote, if they have a question about usage and how many users are being billed for, or how many endpoints they're being billed for, they should be able to see all of that in the portal anytime they want. And so again, if all of that stuff's in the portal, basically what you've done is you killed the QBRs is being practiced today. So then the question then becomes, what comes next, right? If we killed the QBR, we're not saying don't talk to clients. We're saying don't talk to clients about the stuff you're doing. Talk to the clients about what they're doing. And this goes back to really an opportunity to listen and learn. The QBR is a magical hour, hopefully with the CEO, the owner of that business, or certainly the executive team, preferably of that business, where you're busy listening and learning about their business and where they're going. And most business owners will talk about their business, right? Most of them, if you ask them questions, will be glad to answer those questions, because again, if you're the trusted advisor or strategic advisor, you're going to have the opportunity to work with them, to listen, learn, and they're going to want to tell you as much as possible because they want your input on some of the decisions that they're going to make. And if you go back to that, again, to today's topics, that previous slide, the main thing is that gives you a framework of the types of questions to ask while you're in there, right? But again, if you're busy presenting, you're not going to be listening, right? And so what you want to do is basically figure out a way inside of that hour to listen and learn as much as possible in that process. So, Ricky, you've got a good story here. So
it's the best story for this one, because we actually went to Connect IT, Kaseya's conference last year in Vegas. And while that was super cool, what was even cooler than that was the World Water Park Convention right next door. And I was super thrilled because I was like, man, that must be super interesting. Except it was the opposite of interesting. And I thought it was super funny to see people in suits talking about water park stuff. And I popped in and I decided to be a real weirdo and sit inside some of the conferences that they were having. And this is legit. What they were talking about was the slide lubrication ratio on slides to determine the speed of riders so they can get more enjoyment out of not zipping down, not going too slow. Cool. Chlorine management is a huge deal because of the sheer amount of dirtiness in the waters in pools. Risk insurance, obviously people breaking their bones, scratching themselves, getting infections. That's really crazy. Water pump flow rates. That was another big topic about conservation. So like the other big one was Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots is super big at water parks. I don't know, for those that aren't familiar, ice cream of the future. But the point of this, right, I'm not just being weird, is that what we care about? No, I was super confused and disappointed, but at the same time, I understood it. And it kind of brought me to this because I thought, all I care about as a casual water park enjoyer is it fun? I don't care how much chlorine is in there. I don't care about the water pump flow rates. I do care about the Dippin' Dots though. So if Jeff, you could give me a quick visual on that. Let's take a look at those. But this is really, it's stupid. It's a stupid example, but at the same time, it's a real example, right? You think about the complexity that goes into something like managing a water park. And these are physical things that have, ostensibly, let's say tens and hundreds of components. IT has tens of thousands and millions of endpoints, literally, right? From different tools, from different dependencies and all the other things. Vince, you should want Dippin' Dots. They're delicious. I put banana flavored ones on the screen. Anyways, that was the thing, right? And it's one of those things that, again, we've said this analogy, if you've watched a lot of our webinars or other things a billion times, but it is something that you should take to the QBR every time and be humble and think about it yourself too, which is, if I were on the opposite end of this, would I care about it, right? Would I actually want to sit down and discuss water pump flow rates and all the other stuff? And it's like, no. In the same way that like you bring it to the QBR, you have to, right? I answered a question in the Q&A before, and I want to draw attention to it because I think it was a good question, right? It was, how do I show, unfortunately it was anonymous, but it said, how do I show ROI? And I think that what Jeff previously said right before we went to this slide is really important, right? We're talking about the QBR, that precious hour. We're not saying don't show the reports. All the stuff that you're doing for them still matters. That stuff is still critical. The tickets, the backup, the security, that stuff's going nowhere, right? Our answer as CloudRadial is, make it available, but don't bring it to the attention unless it's needed, because the ROI concept, right? If I make a call back to the $5,500 example, is you do, eventually there may be a conversation that you need to have to show the value that you did increase the productivity 10%. How do you do that? Well, that's where those reports come in. All the reports that you get from these tools are the literal tangible proof to say you were at here and now you're over here. And those are important, but I'm just saying that, like, unless that is specifically requested, right? Unless that is being called into question, don't bring it up. Focus on the other stuff. If it is being brought into question, then it must be a topic of discussion. At the very least, make that readily available, right? And that's something that can organically come up inside of the QBR. But specifically, if we're focusing here on, again, what do they care about moving forward? Make your MSP a Dippin' Dots MSP. And I swear we're not sponsored, I promise. But
yeah, one of the things, and so if you look at the, again, I was at a conference a few months ago, and vendor after vendor got up and said, look, you just need to use our product and print our report and take this to your clients. And after about the third, fourth, fifth vendor to do that, I thought none of the clients care about that. In fact, actually, if you go to these conferences, and we do a bunch of them, if I browse around the floor and I look at all the things that are mentioned on the floor, not a single one of your clients probably cares about what's going on behind the scenes there, right? Just like the water park, right? Again, there's a lot of issues, and there's actually a lot of people out there apparently that sell slide lubrication and sell chlorine management. Fortunately, there's only one Dipping Dot, so that's good. They seem to have that market to themselves, but there's a lot of different choice in there, and those are real issues. But as a water park goer, you don't care. And just because the vendors provide the reports to keep you informed doesn't mean that you have to tell your clients that that's how you do it, right? Again, when was the last time you knew how they manage chlorine at a water park when you went? Probably never, right? You can just tell if it's clean or not clean, if it smells bad or smells good. It smells like chlorine, right? Then you kind of know that it's being handled. That's all you really care about. And unfortunately, when it comes to security and compliance and so many things, especially security now, where that's such a big deal and it's such a hot topic of interest, your clients assume that you've got it covered, right? Just like I assume my CPA files our taxes on time with the correct summation of the numbers, right? I don't question whether or not they added the numbers correctly. I know that they're probably doing it correctly. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about that. And so as you look at the vendors and you look at some of the stuff that's going on in the industry right now, and it's a ton of fascinating stuff, all things that can make you more productive, better, make your clients more secure. Your clients aren't going to care about that, right? And I think that's one of the things, if you really want to get down to why we think killing the QBR as it exists today is so vitally important, is because basically you're talking about things that they don't care about, right? You want to talk about the Dipping Dots and not the chlorine management, right? To summarize Ricky's approach, right? And lastly, want to focus on the QBRs as defining your opportunities. And QBRs are not there to define your past. And I think, again, if you don't have CloudRadial and you're worried about your clients understanding what you do, then you are stuck with the idea of maybe I need to print and present so they'll know I've been working real hard on their behalf since we last talked. And maybe that's important if you don't have a CloudRadial to do that. But if you have CloudRadial, you don't need to worry about showing them what you've done because you've already done that digitally. You've already shown that to them online. And again, you can automate almost all of your reports and reporting to push through the portal because clients want to know that you're doing your job. They just don't care about the details. I mean, I'd almost like to ask how many people have looked at their last month's bank statement, at least the personal one, because if you typically only look at it if you have a question. Otherwise, you don't look at it. But if you didn't get it, you would really care, right? And so the QBRs define your opportunities. And so are they thinking of you basically on your ability to deliver strategy, expertise, or do they look at you simply as a price or a cost, right? And if you're not talking to the executive team, if you're not talking to the business owner or the CEO, it basically means you're not relevant, right? And that's the bottom line. If you're not talking to the decision makers inside those organizations, it means that they've come to think of you as transactional, right? And basically as somebody that's not helping them drive the business forward. Because if they think of you that way, they'll want to take those meetings every single time. So if you're getting pushback on clients that want to push back the QBR or feel like, nothing's really changed since last year, we don't need to talk. If you're getting those kinds of comments back, if you go to the QBR that you've scheduled and maybe the CEO doesn't show up, maybe it's just the office manager, or worst case, the office manager's assistant, that would be bad. So these are signs that your QBRs, at least the way you've done them before, aren't relevant. And they're more about you than they are about the client, right? The QBRs are your chance to learn, to listen, to grow as an MSP, and basically tap into those additional buckets of budget, right? Because again, the technology budget is great. It's where almost everybody starts. But if you stay there, you're just leaving a ton of money and opportunity on the table, and you're really not delivering the value or the VCI role that you could potentially deliver to those clients. If you haven't seen CloudRadial, be sure and take a look at cloudradial.com/demo. We'll be glad to walk you through the product and answer any questions you have. There's also a great webinar. Not a great webinar because Ricky and I did it, but it's a good webinar on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/CloudRadial. This video will be there afterwards, and then everybody that registered will get a copy of this video today as well. And there's a great webinar. Well, it's great. Again, it's good. It's good. A good webinar we did probably a couple of years ago on the perfect QBR. Where we hit a lot of these same themes. We talk about some of the things to deliver. I think, we're just a little more strident today because, again, we're getting a little more passionate because, again, we've seen MSPs that do it the old style, and we've seen MSPs do it the new style. And we've worked with small MSPs and we've worked with large MSPs. And we feel like the secret to being a larger MSP and a faster growing MSP is to do it in a way that's very client first and very client focused. And now I see there's some good questions out there. One of the things, there's one question I want to hit right off the bat. If you're onboarding a client, how quickly would you be getting to a QBR like this? And essentially, you want to be there, maybe even in the sales process. Right? You want to be setting the stage in the sales process to listen, to learn, to see what those opportunities are. Again, there's a lot of transactional things that go on, again, that you have to do that are getting the right number of users, getting all the machines, getting all the endpoints added. There's a lot of transactional stuff, but hopefully in that sales process, certainly maybe one of those first meetings afterwards, the QBR really needs to be focused on the client and where that client's headed, right? Again, as soon as you've signed that deal, mentally, those clients are already starting to shift their mentality over to like, well, that problem's taken care of. We can now go focus on other stuff, right? They don't appreciate, sometimes understand or care how much work goes into the onboarding. They're focused on what comes next. And again, because we see this with CloudRadial just on ourselves, right? When we sign a client for CloudRadial, maybe internally they go like, well, we fixed our client problem. No, we know there's some implementation stuff that needs to be done, but we're always, open to feedback and suggestions about how we make the product better. Because again, signing, growing, those are all different from a client perspective. And again, you should be doing those QBRs again, probably a little bit in the sales process. Again, additionally, as soon as possible afterwards. There was a webinar I did last week on how to restructure your website in a way that focuses on setting the right tone for these conversations. If you didn't get a chance to see that webinar, I suggest you go, again, it's on our YouTube channel, but take a look at that one because that really does address, I think, some of the core issues related to how you set the stage, even in the sales process, to have QBRs like this, and how to set the stage that your clients will expect you to come out of the gate with a client-first mentality. So,
I think there's a couple of questions that I can summarize the gist of what they're asking you together, and I want your take on this, Jeff, because I have my own ideas too. But like, if you are stuck and you have been relegated down to the office manager, what's your path back up? I mean, what's your take on how would you manage to kind of reset and go, okay, I know what it's been like in the past, but now let's keep it strategic. think
I
there's
think the first thing is, in that case, you almost have to like start a little sales effort all over again. And the first step is like, hey, I've got a lot of questions about the business and the direction. And I really need, if we can, I'd like to get an hour with the CEO, not to talk status, but to talk about future. Right. And I think one of the things that you have to do to basically, you've got to get yourself back in front of that CEO with that new approach. And to do that, you're going to have to ask for that time back on their calendar again. But say, look, we've got a lot of questions. There's a lot of new technologies coming out. There's a lot of new changes in Office. There's a lot of new changes. And what I need to do as your technology advisor is I need to help you understand how to take advantage of all of that. And I really would appreciate an hour with the owner, the CEO, to basically get his take on where he wants to take the business. So then I can develop a plan that is going to help you and maximize your opportunities in the technology area. So you've almost got to go back and sell that, but you really need to basically, first and foremost, convince the office manager that you're not there to basically take that pitch or go over their head about getting a new laptop sold. Again, the QBR, there's so many things. If you've got a new laptop or you've got a new package to sell, just sell it. Don't wait for the QBR to do it. Otherwise, everybody's going to hate the QBR, right? Use email, use quotes, use a bunch of other tools to get those transactions done on a daily basis. Don't scope them up and group them up together into the QBR. Use that QBR to listen, and to listen, you need to talk to the CEO, and basically that's what you're trying to get across to the office manager.
Yeah, really good question, because I think that, again, a lot of these things that you guys are saying, I love it, right? I hate when I go into a presentation or I listen to a presentation and they give you these grandiose ideas and they never tell you how to connect X to Y. And I think that like a lot of these things have merit. Like, again, like we talked about before, that question of like, well, what about reports? And this question of, well, how do I actually do it, right? More stuff like that, because my hope as well is in doing a lot of these webinars, these conversations, is we're trying to smooth out a lot of these processes. You'll see it in our implementation process as well, trying to make things far more tangible, kind of linking together like, hey, this is what we've seen work. And the smarter that you guys get about doing these things and asking the questions, we're really just kind of taking a pulse of the MSP industry as a whole and talking about it. Again, part of the reason that we're doing this webinar in the first place is not because well, maybe we are brilliant pioneers, but not really because we're brilliant pioneers, because we're seeing this shift happen, right? And it's one of those things that smart MSPs that are realizing this can get ahead of it. And it's not the ones that didn't are dumb or anything, but it's just like, it's very easy to fall in that old plan, something that we touched on a little bit. But again, back in the old day, right? It was easy to have this conversation naturally because you were in the office, you were sitting there, you were able to talk, you were able to kind of have that conversation casually. You didn't realize it, but you were doing QBRs every day, right? You were out there taking a pulse. If you no longer have that, then what you're seeing right now is the current QBR is a relic of the past of what used to be a day-to-day conversation. Then unfortunately, because you're not there every day, you can't do it. You have an hour, you have half an hour, you have the CTO, the CEO, the IT director. So it's about maximizing the value of that time. And again, that's why it's a really big thing to take a look at it, kill the QBR, figure out where do the priorities lay, and how can I take something so complex and boil it down into something that is very tangible? And again, more questions like that are fantastic. Love them, because again, I'm a very practical guy. I don't like being told generalities of like, yeah, go kill it, go do something else.
Yeah, there's a question out there on the best practice for report generation in CloudRadial. And one of the things I'd say is don't. I mean, CloudRadial is good enough that all the reports that your clients are going to see, I mean, you can put stuff in the report archives if it doesn't fit some of the other reporting areas, put that stuff there. But again, if you think about it, I mean, even like my bank statement and so many other things now, I just don't even get a printed report anymore. I declined it, or if I get the printed statement, I don't really pay attention to it because I know it's online, right? I don't need to sift through a big package of reports. Now, we will allow you, I mean, not allow, but I mean, there's a function or a feature in CloudRadial where you can take and generate a PDF report for your clients. But I really hate to see that used. I'd rather see you train your clients to say, look, if you have a question about what we're doing or how we're doing it, just go online and see the current report. Go see what's there. Go look and train them where to go inside of CloudRadial to get the information that you might be tempted to present in a PDF. Again, if you're using the PDF report in CloudRadial to take to your client to do your QBR, you're doing it wrong, right? Again, because all the stuff that we present in that, and basically in that PDF, with the exception of the planner items, is probably just noise to your clients, right? Again, if you need to backup, refer to it live, refer to it in the portal, right? Again, it's the last time, I mean, I can't think of when I've ever downloaded a PDF report of my Amazon bill, right? Again, if I've got a question, I just go to that specific item. So again, what all this is about, kind of rethinking, the way you approach clients, and approach them from a standpoint that if you need something, if you need one thing or two things, just go to the portal. It'll take care of it. Order it through the portal. Review the transaction through the portal. If you got something to tell them that you recommend to them, do it through email and do it through a quote, right? Reorient the QBR to be that listening opportunity.
Great. I think we're out of questions, but if anyone has anything, please feel free. Otherwise, I think we may release class a few minutes early. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, there's actually some more stuff in the chat, but yeah, and there's actually some good comments in there that I'm glad to see. So people are suggesting some things for.
I will say, and I'm seeing this in the chat too, I really appreciate, and this is not something, I hope you guys know this too. The MSP community is really different than most, because the fact that people give their, let's say, secret sauce and share their tips and best practices is typically not something else that you would see in any more cutthroat industries. And I love to see that, like, even in the comments, we're seeing tips being shared. And same thing here. I think that, like, as a community in general, this is not really about, maximizing and having a secret weapon or here and there. It's just about, like, having these better conversations, I think, is going to make everybody more valuable as a whole. And I think that, like, again, please feel free to continue this conversation, whether it's here or even in our community, right? We're happy to host and talk about these things, because I think, again, the better we get as an industry in having these conversations, selfishly, right? A product like ours, a software product like ours, gets to develop better features to support these conversations. And like Jeff's saying, right, you see things like the report. And I remember that when he developed it, he even said, like, I don't really want to, but it was necessary, because I think a lot of what happens is you can't necessarily pull the rug from underneath people, right? A lot of processes don't change overnight, but hopefully what we're seeing is, again, this is a real change. We're not really suggesting something as much as we are giving you a heads up, like, this is where it's going to go. Pretty solid.
Yeah, again, I appreciate everybody for joining us today. Would appreciate the comments. If you've got other comments you want to share, please send them to me or Ricky, Jeff@CloudRadial.com or Ricky@CloudRadial.com. We'd love to hear your feedback on this. Again, we've seen the benefits of MSPs taking this approach. We've seen smaller MSPs become larger MSPs with this approach. So this is something that I think is backed up by a lot of not only stridency or opinion on our part, but again, we've seen it work, and it makes us even more passionate about it. And again, thanks so much for all of our partners for helping us shape the product. Thank you for attending. Again, for those that signed and registered, you'll get a copy of this. And again, it will be in our YouTube channel. And again, if you found it of interest, please share it with your peer group or other partners. So again, thanks for attending. And you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.